I might be sick. I've had a cough all day, so I suppose we'll see if I'm able to get this video out at all, or if my voice is like a ragged paper towel by the end. Also, how's everyone liking the new microphone? I think it's clearer than the old one, but it's way worse about popping, so even with 2 pop filters on it, it still sometimes sounds like it's getting subjected to gale force winds. At least it doesn't have the random crackling the old mic was causing. That was something that's been making my skin crawl while editing since I reinstalled Windows. Anyways, it's Studio Series Bumblebee movie concept Megatron. But first, your likes! Please give, and maybe subscribe. So weirdly, this is a figure that for once the whole community seems like they are in agreement about. Awesome robot mode, amazing posability, terrible transformations, and worthless alt modes. Even the community's greatest ray of sunshine, Thew, isn't really feeling this thing, because the back half of the things this figure does are so weak. And look, I'm not going to break the mold here. I'm in agreement with just about everyone else. This is a red figure where because they actually hit the mandate of it posing well, rather than their typical MO of just completely failing to capture the point of the line at all, they therefore got uppity about it and wanted $50 for it. Sure, this thing has leader engineering. If by leader engineering you mean, it's got a lot of pieces that move, and you fucked up the engineering so badly that amounts to nothing. But you've all heard that before. I want to say stuff that you've never heard before, because I don't need to be telling you all the stuff you already know about this guy. You've seen the other reviews already. You know the whole community's reaction to this is, wow, this is a really cool design that does some awesome stuff. Boy, I wish they didn't fuck up like half the point. And yes, I know, the concept art line is bullshit. The concept art doesn't actually exist. It's just an excuse to sell G1ified Bayverse stuff. Why do people care? I don't get it. Like, oh my god, Hasbro came up with new designs, and now they're selling them, and the line's name is questionably genuine. Perish the thought. At least we have lines like Legacy, where it's about the whole franchise, and not like 60% to G1 rehash, and then like 15% of the rest of the stuff is characters who they just made up. Stop acting like Studio Series is this sacred thing that is beyond alteration. Gamer Edition already exists, and they are already thinking up other uses for the line. The line is whatever Hasbro wants it to be, and complaining that it's on characters that you don't want it to be on is so much more pointless than worrying about whether or not they are doing those characters justice, or if they are giving you value for the money. Now, rant out of the way, yes, this design looks pretty cool, but I'm not as enamored with it as a lot of others are. For starters, does no one else notice that his crotch is bigger than his torso? Is that not weird to everyone else? I know that people like to joke that Megatron has big dick energy. This still should not be like a third of his total mass. Also, his chest plate. I kinda hate it. Like, yeah, Megatron is armored up like a knight because he is this warrior bruiser, and all that armor covers precisely as much as the cleavage window in a keyhole sweater. I don't know if this is modesty or if Megatron wanted his nipples to hang out. Are these his nipples? Or are those? Ugh. Saggy Megatron. You know, this does kind of have ripped 80-year-old man energy who spent way too much time in the sun. Or is that just me? Also, OCD Man is in pure suffering over the fact that his chest plate has this one asymmetrical part. Why are you doing this to me, Hasbro? That didn't need to be there. You just want to hurt me, don't you? Also, I'm entirely unsure if it is cooler for Megatron to have these more ornate thighs or if he should have these gigantic stabby kneecaps. But don't let me complain too much about the way this thing looks. Yes, I think that the crotch should be smaller, and yes, I think that the chest plate should be bigger, though it would start to impede the arm articulation a bit if it was. However, there is nothing stopping them from extending it down, at least. But for the most part, this looks great. The head, less so. I have never, ever liked the whole, they can't have liquid metal faces, that's stupid, but they also can't have faces that were just designed to be faces in the first place. They have to be made out of disparate parts of the alt mode because they are Transformers, so every part of them is made from something else, otherwise what's the point? Thing that they do in the movies. It makes them all look like flayed monkeys. Things that have almost human facial proportions, but have these weird mouths on the bottoms of their chins, with things just jutting out wrong. And this is no exception. I like the way that the helmet gives the head the correct silhouette, but I hate that techno-gore face. I don't get why people are like, it doesn't look cool if it doesn't look like it was cobbled together in a junkyard by someone who's going to sell it at the local fair for $40. I do at least respect it for trying to look like the character it's supposed to be, even if it's a slasher movie version of them, rather than literally 0% like him like the original movie did. But you know, this is a couple steps towards what he's supposed to look like when the original design sprinted away from what we were supposed to see at superhuman speeds. So look, I had a lot of complaining I could do. There are 2 reasons for that. 1, I'm me, and I'm great at complaining. And 2, saying stuff that you haven't heard before requires me to use my massive talents at complaining. But the general consensus on this thing is correct. It's a cool looking version of Megatron that's pretty much what I wish he had looked like in the movies. And I know that there are people who will complain that this looks too much like G1 Megatron because they are insane and anything that's not 100% Bay is therefore 100% G1. No, this is not G1. It looks enough like the G1 guy that I do easily recognize it as intending to be that guy, but that does not make it identical to the G1 version. And when Beast Wars Megatron, who is a character who's not actually supposed to be Megatron, looks more like Megatron than the actual movie version of that character, that's honestly the actual problem. This looks good. This looks cool. It's not perfect, but this is what the movie Megatron should have looked like. It's about as different from the actual guy as the 07 Optimus was from G1 Optimus. So if that guy was okay, why is this one a problem? No, that's not me saying that I like the 07 Optimus. I find that there are a lot of really bad design decisions they made with him, but it was at least recognizably Optimus. Anyways, for accessories, he comes with the one that's kind of not one. The fusion cannon. A Megatron without one isn't a Megatron. It's required, so it kind of doesn't count. It's just part of his design. This is okay. The barrel is a little narrow and the back end is a little fat. It makes it out of proportion. The two halves kind of needed to meet halfway in terms of size, as it feels currently out of whack. But it's better than a lot of Megatron's versions of these, and I do like this flap on the back. It clicks in really satisfyingly, and it's fun to pretend that it like folds out when it's charging up and then snaps back in when it fires. Though that is definitely not the point of why this does this. Posability is a little overhyped, but very, very good. I mean, some people act like this is up there with the most posable figures of all time. It's not, but again, it's great at this. Head has good up, great down, a bit of side to side, and a full swivel. Shoulders pull a 90, and a built-in forwards butterfly. Plus, you can untransform it for a backwards one. Elbows pull a bit more than a 90, wrists have rotation, inwards bend, which you can use to fake sword-wielding wrists, and dual-jointed fingers with a separate index. Hips can kick over his head, have extreme range out to the sides, and are unimpeded back. Extreme knees, and feet with a good toe up and down, and a decent rocker. So yes, this is great. There's not a bad joint here. The feet are relatively average, but everything else is massively above the average. But he does not have any maximum joints, no ab crunch, and just not enough extra putting him up over the top. It's great, fantastic even, but do not get too convinced that the articulation is the best ever. It's not. It's better than 95% of chug, if not more, but this is not Optus Pexis levels of posability like some people seem to think it is. Now transformations, I'm not actually going to bother showing for once. I want to be clear that they are kind of oversold on how bad they are. When I got this thing, I thought it was going to be like a death sentence to try and transform him, and it turned out to be nowhere near that bad. They are still really, really bad, and I don't want to film the transformation because it is messy and confusing and will be even harder to get right on camera, and you really aren't going to get anything out of seeing me do it at 10 times speed. Plus, as I write this, I'm becoming more and more convinced that yes, I am actually getting sick, so I just really don't want to bother with it today. Also, I'm just tired. They aren't the absolute nightmare that some people make them out to be, but you aren't going to enjoy these. And this may be why people act like they're a bit worse than they are, because the results are just not worth it. Maybe you're like me, and from a distance you think that the tank looks kind of okay. Maybe it even has some, like, Metal Slug vibes, right? But there is a difference between a 2D picture and something that you can actually see in 3D space that can be kind of hard to convey. So I will have to put in a little extra effort to show you all what I mean, since I've seen no one else really show off the problem here. So this thing would be maybe a passable alt mode were it not for the fact that the turret and the treads are just not connected. In real life, this big, powerful cannon is just hovering over the treads on a spaghetti noodle. Hard to see in photos, but IRL, it's the only thing that you can see. Sure, the alt mode is kind of bullshitty. Sure, it looks too much like a dude doing yoga, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is that this dude needs some anti-gravity tech to hold onto his turret every time he fires, and that it's also connected at the back, so swiveling it looks stupid as fuck. And then the finger quotes jet mode is just about 1% a vehicle cab that's definitely not something that belongs to a jet, and 99% a dude squatting like he's trying to fly by generating thrust through farting. This deserves no further consideration. It's not an alt mode, it's just bullshit. And I can't help but ask why. Why does this have two terrible alt modes rather than just one decent one? There is this kind of almost brain rot that has happened because Megatron's original alt mode is just not acceptable anymore, where no one can agree on what his new alt mode should be and no one is really willing to compromise. So there's just constant switching and mashing of stuff together and flipping back and forth and making him into a triple changer when he doesn't need to be one, and it just results in things like this, where it's like half of a really good Transformers toy. It's got a look, a vibe, and posing that enhances that so much. But it's also got a price tag like the other 2/3 of this figure aren't shit. But they are shit. Rancid, watery, maggoty shit. Wait for this to go on sale. If you find it for 25 bucks, it's going to serve you well if you just want an RED Megatron. Otherwise, it's not worth it. And no, the fan modes don't help. And before we go, let's thank a channel backer. If you'd like to get on the wheel yourselves, you can join the Patreon or the channel memberships. And this time it's Mariner. Man, you have been on the wheel a long time before finally getting picked, huh? With G1 Micromaster Flat Top. There is nothing quite like an old toy from our youths. And this looks like a silly fun one. A tiny robot that turns into a tiny jet that flies on a slightly less tiny jet that turns into an even more proportionally tiny aircraft carrier. I love that the colors make it clear that even though he's small enough to inhale, that this is a bad guy. And this is back from the era when toys only needed to be fun. I almost get Mighty Max vibes off this thing. Honestly, it kind of makes me wish that I had ever gotten into the Micromasters. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.